Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you at the end of week 6 of the 2025 General Assembly session. It's been a very busy week, and there's a lot of things that are happening in Annapolis. I've had a number of bill hearings for bills of mine, been sitting in hearings and other meetings, and just we're in the real crunch of it now, kind of right in the heart of the legislative session. I want to start off today talking about 2 bills that I presented this week, and then I also want to touch a little bit on something that's been happening locally that is really important to so many. First, I had 2 bills that I've put in response to the MPRP project. The 2 bills that I had this week are dealing with what happens if eminent domain is used to take someone's property by this corporate entity. I have legislation that would, first of all, provide that anybody who has property seized would have the ability to get legal fees, expert testimony, and other types of expenses reimbursed as part of the proceeding, because it can be very expensive to defend yourself in court, to get the kind of in an eminent domain proceeding specifically. And we want to provide for people who may face this. Let me say, while I'm explaining these 2 bills, we are fighting to stop MPRP, slow it down if we can't stop it, and try to get a different way done so that it's not going to pillage people's farmland and take away livelihood. But we want to have laws in place to protect people in case it comes to eminent domain proceedings. So let me say that. And we also want to be sure that when people are defending themselves in this process, that they're going to be able to get help, get reimbursed by the people who are taking by the people who would take their land if they did. People are facing court action if this happens through no fault of their own. It's because a corporate entity has been given power by the Public Service Commission, which is what would happen if they prove it, to take property. And so we want to have protections there. And then the other bill I have is one that would allow for what happens when there's an eminent domain seizure. You're given the value of your land, and it can be a little bit of a debate negotiation of what the value is. We want to be sure that agricultural land is given 350% above the value of the land. So it's essentially what's known as treble damages plus some additional for the cost of losing that land. And we're trying to make sure it's also clear that you need to assess the value of the land and factor in the value of what's lost by separating someone's farmland. So we had 2 bills on that this week. Very good hearings in the Judicial Proceedings Committee. I'm going to be working with colleagues trying to get hopefully both of those bills out. I really appreciate folks from Stop MPRP working with us on this. Joanne Fredericks came down to testify, which I greatly appreciate. And Harris Eisenstein testified virtually. He's an attorney with a lot of experience in this area of law. This is very helpful. So that was one of the big things I worked on this week. And then I'm going to stop for a moment from talking about Annapolis, although this is related to actions that have happened in Annapolis, and talk about just this week, Carroll County's school board held their meeting where the superintendent discussed proposed cuts and changes, and some pretty drastic changes to the way Carroll County schools would operate in the next year. I don't have a comprehensive list that I'll run through here, but among the biggest possibilities are I've gotten a lot of contacts from people about outdoor school and whether outdoor school would end. But also now there's discussion about what's going to happen with moving teachers from some parts of the county to other parts of the county, and that some schools would end up with a much greater number of students per classroom than others. And a lot of people that go to these meetings or hear about this and will contact my office, I want to be clear, this is not the school board or the superintendent deciding suddenly to do this or being stingy, or it's not even, the commissioners, well, they need to give us more money necessarily or whatever. A lot of this is because the Kirwan Blueprint education bill that passed, I fought and opposed it. I supported Governor Hogan vetoing it, and his veto was overridden. That bill, passed several years ago, is a big cause for our major budget deficit we're facing in the state. But also provisions in that bill are exactly why this is happening. And I'm going to explain why. It is not that the Carroll County school system doesn't necessarily have enough money to stave off some of these cuts or these changes. It's that money that they get is put into silos to where they have to spend money only on services for students who are considered like free and reduced lunch or English as a second language, and they have to surge resources to where those students are by law. And what happens is some counties have those kind of students, those students at that income level spread all throughout their county. And so it's not as hard to make sure money is following that student because they're all throughout a different county or region. Carroll County has some pockets where we have more of kids that are considered in that what's called comp ed category in certain pockets. And so you have to take, it's perverse, but you have to take away from other students to try to go meet the needs of these students. But what's really crazy is in Carroll County, we do well with those students. Our students at all levels do really, really well relative to their peers around the state. And so it's an ideological thing that was put into Kirwan that a lot of people didn't really understand when it was passed. They just thought, well, it spends more money on education. It's a good thing. And this has not caught us by surprise. We've been working on this issue. Last year, myself and our delegation were able to get some help to allow for a little bit of flexibility on in another area of Kirwan, or we might have had some of these challenges start last year. Now, so the critical piece that needs to change is our county and a few others are in that same boat that I just spoke about, with the siloed money keeping us from being able to use the money more fungibly, more, to make sure we spread it across the entire school system. And so we need a change in the Kirwan formula and Kirwan law to allow for more flexibility. So I've been having meetings down here, as have my colleagues in the delegation. We are talking with legislators. We're not the only county in this situation, but there's not a majority of counties are not, though. So it's a complicated thing. The nice thing about our argument is we don't have to argue for more money, because we don't really need more money. We just need more flexibility for using the money we're already being provided. And we'll say, our school system has said, we will be accountable. You can monitor us, audit us, and see that we're getting good results for that money, which is really how all education funding ought to work. So I wanted to reach out to people and explain this as a longer video of, we're aware, myself, our delegates, we're aware of this situation. We are trying to work. We are trying to get some help, some consideration. It's something that has to be tweaked in law, though. It can't just be done by fiat. And so we're aware of it. We are encouraging people, of course, to communicate with your school board members and commissioners about specific decisions they have to make, like outdoor school, but understand also that this is partly something that's a result of years later, the Kirwan blueprint coming to fruition, and it impacting, I think, schools in a way that maybe the people who pushed it through didn't realize, or maybe they thought it didn't matter. I don't know. We're trying to work with people down here to understand that, and so I will keep you posted on that as well. As I've told you, our state's budget situation is difficult, and we need to make major cuts and changes. But some of the changes we need to make are things like this, where we allow for more flexibility with full accountability, so that we can actually make sure things work properly. Thank you for tuning in, for watching. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime. I hope you have a great Valentine's Day and a great weekend, and God bless you.